self-awareness is actually the most important quality in life for all aspects. But yeah, I mean, if we go by social pressures, a man will choose a trophy wife who looks sexy and hot and will impress all of his male friends, et cetera, et cetera. You go by the things that culture tells you that these are the right images for you, right? And then there won't be any connection to you because you're choosing for purposes that don't connect to who you are. And so you have to know yourself. You have to know what you love. You have to know what you hate. I think most people know that they love animals or don't love animals. I think most people know that they like stability or they like things to be kind of slightly chaotic. I don't think you have to go through deep levels of introspection. But what you have to do is when you're involved in a relationship, you have to think that those things matter. That's the problem. You tend to think that those things matter. You think that sex matters more than anything, physical attraction matters, or you think that the person having a lot of money matters, et cetera, et cetera. You don't think that this other aspect is important. If you value what I'm talking about, then your self-awareness will kick in because you really basically know these essential basic parts about your own character.
I think people sometimes get distracted by admiration of qualities that they might find admirable, but that don't mesh with their own character. I've seen this many times before where, where someone will say, someone will start listing off the positive attributes of the person that they happen to be dating. Like, he does this, blank, blank, and blank. She does this, he volunteers, et cetera. And that's all great. I mean, volunteering for good causes, I'm all in support of that. But then what they're overlooking often, it seems, is whether or not that's a core value for them or whether or not it's just something that they admire. I hear a lot of admiration in the early days of relationships that later I hear about failing. And what you're talking about is something deeper, more aligned with one's own sense of self. And it almost leads me to use the word, more about energetics. It's like merging of people's energies, which sounds very new agey, and that's not my intention. But I think it relates to something that we do hear a lot about, and I think is valid, which is how it feels to be around somebody in different contexts. Like, do we feel at ease? Do we feel lightness and ability to express ourselves, and do we enjoy and admire them in their expression, as opposed to just admiring what they do? They've accomplished blank, blank, and blank.
I see.
Right? They manifest these qualities that I wish I had, right? You hear that, and aspire to have, which is very different than a meshing of energies.
Also, there are a couple other things. You have to understand their character as well, and people can be very deceptive and very slippery and can wear masks. One telling sign that I've noticed in my own relationships in the past is that the woman would be a certain way with me that I thought was very good and I liked, and then the moment we were with other people, she acted in a way that was very irritating. And it's like a different character, and I really kind of fell out of love with her when I saw her in social interactions. She revealed, so with me, she was almost wearing a mask and playing a game, but the moment she entered a different circumstance, I saw another aspect to her character. So you also have to be very attentive to their character, what lies underneath, that they have some of these values, that they're not just trying to win you over for whatever and are playing along with you. The other thing that's very important is a sense of mystery. So a partner can become boring very, very quickly, right? After a year, you know every single thing about them, right? They're going to say the same things. These conversations go around in circles. It's just, you've reached an end. There's no surprises. There's no mystery. You want somebody where they have corners that you don't really see at first, that they surprise you sometimes. Suddenly there's a quality that you hadn't suspected before. So people who are too obvious, who are too familiar, who show everything instantly, they're going to end up boring you, right? But people who have a bit of reserve, I know this is maybe I'm projecting my own values on the world, but people who kind of intrigue you, that you don't fully understand, that make you want to know more. And if they can be like that after 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, wow, that's fantastic. But the sense of, I know every single thing about this person, they never surprise me anymore, is what kind of breaks the enchantment and leads to the end of the relationship.
The idea of more to learn about somebody perhaps also suggests that they are continuing to evolve and to forage in the
Yeah.
landscape of life.
Yeah.
That they're not fully baked.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is an interesting idea. During the 4-episode series that we did on mental health, Paul Conti, a psychiatrist, said that a matching of generative drives, which he defined as the desire to create something in the world of one's own expression, is really critical in relationship. And he said, it matters less whether or not one person likes classical music and the other person rock and roll, provided that their relationship to music is similar or something of that sort. Like that it's about a drive of a certain sort to engage in the world. So one person could love music, the other person's not into music, but the way that they approach life is one of perhaps mutual curiosity, desire to find out, etc., and that this exists on a continuum. I'm curious if it seems to jive with what you're saying.
It does, but the only thing I would add is if you love classical music and they love like heavy metal music, you're going to be driven crazy pretty quickly. It's going to, it's not going to mesh with you. And I know I would have that problem.
You'll both be in headphones a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So the fact that you both have, because music is like animals in a way. So I agree completely with what you're saying, but I would say maybe music isn't the best example because music says something very deep about a person, right? I'm not saying one is superior to the other, but it reveals something that's nonverbal, that kind of gives you a window into who they are. So if they like punk rock, like you do, and I grew up on punk rock, there's a rebellious thing. There's an anti-authoritarian quality that's very strong. You get to see that through them. If they like Mozart and soft string quartets, there's somebody that kind of values softness and tranquility and peace, and you're not like that. So the music kind of shows you something, a quality about their character that can be very telling and be very eloquent. And so it doesn't mean that you both have to love The Clash or the Dead Kennedys or whatever, showing my own generation. But that you both have that rebellious streak. And that rebellious streak could be there's classical music composers who could be pretty damn rebellious and angry, and I actually kind of like them. So that convergence, I think, is a positive one kind of thing. But in general, I agree with that.